Welcome, everyone. My name is Matthew Webb. We're going to start a new series called Tech Talks. We're going to try to release these every month that the platform updates, specifically the Azure VMware Solution platform, and just make a couple comments, give our opinions on it. Full disclosure, this doesn't necessarily reflect the views of our employer, but just wanted to give some insights into what we see day to day and why these updates matter. So I'm your host, Matthew Webb. I'm a cloud solutions architect at VMware, and today, as a guest, I have Ryan Massey. Ryan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So Ryan Massey, I'm an AVS cloud solution architect at VMware by Broadcom. I've been here for a little over 2.5 years, but I've been working for partners and, in the industry for a long time. Worked with a lot of different VMware products, including EUC, NSX, networking. So yeah, thanks, Matt.
Very cool. Very cool. So today's topic is for March 2024 is the Pure Storage offering called CBS or Cloud Block Store. So I know both Ryan and I are pretty excited about this offering that now brings into the fold basically three options as it comes to VMware Data Store. So the GA options are Azure NetApp Files or ANF and Pure Storage. And if I'm not incorrect, Elastic SAN is still in public preview, so not GA just yet. But we wanted to just make a couple comments on why it matters. One thing that Ryan and I often deal with is we do capacity planning for customers. So if we were to move this workload, how many nodes do I need? And when it comes to economics and density and the value of the product, symmetry matters because we do have just one node type. Essentially, we do have the AV36P. That's the primary node that we see across all regions. Some of the regions have the older AV36 platform, which AV36P essentially replaces. And then we have the AV52. But for all intents and purposes, AV36P is our primary node type. It's got 36 cores, 768 gigs of RAM, and around 12 terabytes usable capacity. So if your workloads are storage heavy or CPU heavy outside of sort of those confines, you end up adding extra nodes to get that specific need. And I'd say 90% of the time for me, and probably for Ryan too, is going to be storage bound workloads. And so having these third-party offerings as a data store into vSphere allows us to offload some virtual machines onto that data store and free up capacity, so we don't have that wasted overhead. So Ryan, any thoughts there?
Yeah, definitely. So, I work with a lot of different customers that have larger, heavy storage utilization on a lot of their VMs. So we'll do some sizing models, for the customer, and we end up looking at how many nodes it would take, and we have this huge storage overhead. So, for example, they may need 45 nodes, for all the storage, but the CPU and memory are lower. So, these storage platforms like Pure Cloud Block Store will allocate that storage onto a separate platform. So instead of needing 45 hosts for storage, maybe they only need 20, and maybe that balances out their CPU and memory to where like Matt was talking about, this symmetry. You want to have you want to be utilizing your nodes and your SDDC as best as possible. You don't want stranded storage sitting out there, and conversely, you don't want a lot of stranded CPU and memory. And that's where these third-party solutions come in.
And certainly, you can have stranded capacity, but that's like the economics part, right?
Right.
This is, as one sales rep I worked with called it, like an all-you-can-eat buffet, which is fairly accurate. Like, you buy the node and you can run as many VMs on that host as possible. Of course, there's going to be upper limitations and things like CPU ready states and all those things that come with performance and analysis on your compute memory workloads on vSphere. But you want to be able to get as dense as possible to get the most economics out of it. Definitely, it's a great point. So I think you said you had like a customer that actually was utilizing CBS. Maybe a couple notes on what they were using it for and their experience.
Right, definitely. Yeah, so very large, healthcare customer. Healthcare customers do have a lot of data, especially, imaging data. You can imagine how large some of this gets. But yeah, so I had a customer who actually deployed AVS in two different regions, right? So they have two AVS implementations in an active scenario. So they don't have another software-defined data center sitting in another region just, doing nothing. They're actually utilizing both. And what Cloud Block Store allows them to do is replicate between these, right? They have common data stores between the two, and they can replicate between each of those AVS sites. So if one fails, they can bring up the VMs on the other AVS instance. On top of that, they even did a backup of that data store into Blob. So CBS brings all these redundancy options, right? So you could even back up, say your data stores into Blob. Let's just say you lost, I don't know, a couple of different regions. You still have that data sitting there that you can rehydrate, maybe into a separate region, right? So it's just allowing all these different points of redundancy so that you don't lose all your data. So
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, just as the product matures, these additional offerings and ecosystem products really do open it up to new use cases. So like the common use cases that we know of, we've talked about capacity augmentation. So trying to avoid to add additional nodes to suffice like a storage need. And then the one you mentioned that your customers using, and I'm sure a lot of customers are interested in, and I know Pure's been talking about, is disaster recovery.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So were they implementing like a pilot light scenario, or were they just N plus N? What did that look like?
No, so this customer actually went directly with full-fledged built-out data centers
Mm,
because they were actually utilizing both of those. But that does bring up a good point. I mean, I do have customers using kind of a pilot light scenario like you're talking about. And one example with Pure Cloud Block Store would be you can actually take an on-premises data store and create a protection group and replicate that with AVS, right? So maybe you're only running 3 nodes minimum in AVS, but then in case of a disaster, you've got that data store sitting in Azure Cloud within AVS, so you can actually go into AVS and that data store is connected, and then you can boot up your VMs from there.
yeah.
And all that can be scripted too, right? So this isn't like manual, clicking around to restore that data.
Yeah, very cool. Well, in the sense of brevity, maybe just final thoughts and wrap up. One thing I think that's really cool about Pure that they took unique approaches. They're building their software on top of IaaS, which is a little bit different than the other solutions that accomplish a similar thing, which I think goes to credit of their engineering. So it's I don't know if it's necessarily fair to call it cloud native build out, but it's kind of got that vibe of like it's not
Yeah.
just bringing bare metal systems into Azure and doing it, but not to say one's bad or the other one's good. I just think it goes to it's a different way of thinking when they're bringing their product to market here, and I think it could add quite a bit of scalability, capabilities and flexibility.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe one closing remark too is on the flexibility part about it is, once you get this set up, it's very similar to on-premises. So you have the option to create, as many VMFS data stores as you want, right? I mean, you will be charged for it, of course, but you do have that flexibility to create data stores. Maybe you need one for your SQL servers, maybe you need one for your marketing team, whatever. But you have that granularity to kind of set up the data stores as you see fit.
Cool. Well, that'll wrap it up. As usual, we'll have some links in the description below around this specific topic, and please, leave a comment if you guys want to see any other topics in the future on our Tech Talks. Appreciate everyone joining today. Have a good one, everyone.